So, a lot of times we talk about what's going wrong, and what's going wrong is usually more fun, but what's going right? There's lots of things that are going right. So, let's talk about a few of those. Hey there, this is Perch. The thing about YouTube and channels and commentary and a lot of these kinds of things is that it's very easy to slip into here's all the problems because it's easier to identify a problem and then kind of present evidence to it than talk about things that are going right. That's just this kind of human nature. It's how conversations go. It's just there's a natural flow to that exists. So, but a lot of things are going right in comics, and if you constantly consume bad, then eventually, it's everything is seen through a bad filter, and that's not healthy either. So, what's going well with comics? Well, I mean, for one, despite everything you've heard, despite impending implosion and everything else, comics is generating a ton of money. Now, you can get into the micro details, and a lot of people are about is it generating more or less money than it should? Definitely, it's not generating as much money as it should. No question about that. Is it generating as much money as it did 2 years ago? Yes, it is. Actually, it is. It is generating as much money. Is it all healthy money? No, a lot of the money is unhealthy money, and what I mean by that is a lot of number one stunts, a lot of kind of things that are artificially propping up that number. But all that aside, and we can talk about that for hours, and people do, and I do. All that aside, it is generating a lot of wealth. There's a lot of cash coming out of comics right now, and that's a good thing. Okay, so that's the platform. If money is coming out, it means that there is a viable business. There's room to maneuver here with comics. So that's a huge thing. I mean, when, in an industry that's popping off, a billion dollar industry is worth is worth something. It's worth a lot. So what next? Well, what else is going well with comics? Well, for one thing, it is there. Let's see, what's the best way to put this? This is kind of like a half good, half bad kind of situation. It's there is a open door for a lot of talent, new talent, to come into comics. Now, the challenge with what I just said is the door is not completely open. There's still a lot of gatekeeping on all sides, by the way, not just from the publishers, but from the indies, from all the rest. There's these things get set up. They get set up with a certain mentality. There are definite kingmakers inside of all these different pillars, and you do have to kiss the ring of the kingmaker, and you have to play the game in order to make it in the industry. And some have waved this aside, and they may be right that this is true, anywhere in the world. If you're going to work in a business anywhere in the world, you better get used to politics and playing the game because that's just life. And there's some truth to that. That's true. Um, but the bad parts aside, there are a lot of avenues for people to get into comics, and those avenues are continuing to expand. So not just this company or that company or this imprint or crowdfunding or anything else. The ability for you to get paper, get pen, draw, assemble, produce, distribute is at one point, even 10 years ago, was dramatically more difficult to get your stuff assembled, get it put together, get it printed, get it out. That was a lot harder to do. Today, it's much easier. There's places where you can go. You can use the power of the internet to distribute your books and get promotion and get eyes on it that you did this stuff didn't exist before, and now it does. So that's a big plus. And the ability for you to sell it and find marketplaces that will take your book are improving and improving every single year, and they're going to continue to improve. Again, despite everything you hear on all sides about comics, coming, going, all the rest, the reality is, like I said before, it's making a lot of money. That's a good thing. And the fact that it is making a lot of money means there's a lot of new voices, new ideas, new things being pushed into the market because, newsflash, people want money. People want a piece of that pie. So as long as that exists, and it's going to exist for quite some time, people are going to be looking and hunting for new ways to distribute and create channels to get comics and this type of graphic material out into the world. Everybody's, publishers are looking for the next, Rain and Telgemeier. And people, movie producers, Netflix, all those guys are looking for new properties that they can, adopt to expand to fill content. There's lots of desire to grow this pie. Now, not all the people are going to be successful, and not all the ways that this happens it will work. But as long as there is this constant drive and motivation and cash at the end of the day for this thing to expand, it's going to expand. So that's a positive too, and it does mean that yes, there are avenues out there to get your comics going. And this means if you're a new talent and you're trying to get your stuff going, you can find lots of reasons why you're blocked from doing that. Tons. You can say, hey, the big guys, the big two are gatekeeping. That's true. In some cases, they absolutely are. If you're not in with a political crowd, you are going to have a much harder road to get into these companies. That's not okay. It's not a good thing. And over time, that probably will shift and will change. But right now, you have some barriers to work through. And you have to decide for your own career. Do you want to fight up against those barriers, or do you want to establish your career another way? Uh, but the point is, you have options. And if you want to just say, look, there's no way I can, I would love to get my comic at Marvel. However, it's, I am a conservative, I'm religious, I'm white, I'm a male, and I've said some really, really mean things about Dan Slott online, and so they won't talk to me. That's probably true. But if you've got a great idea, a great comic in your head, then don't be blocked by that first door. Start knocking on other doors. Start fighting your way to success. Yeah, it would be, if you've got a great idea, it would be way better and way easier if these big publishers open the door to you. Better for you and better for the publisher. If you've got a great idea, hey, you can make them money. They're crazy for not talking to you, but they're not talking to you. So do you want to put them in charge of your success, or do you want to push down the door and make the success yourself? The key here is that, unlike in decades past, you actually have the ability to do it, to make it on your own. If you go back 20 years, that was way harder, way harder / impossible to make that progress yourself. I think that's the key, and that's the good news in all this, is there are options for you that you didn't have before. Hey, you heard that horn. There's a little break in the video there. Um, I swear to God. So I drive, and I do this video, and it's safe. I've got the little hands-free headset on, and I'm doing my thing. And this is why the audio quality, I think, could be better. I need a better headset, and I don't want to wear some giant kind of microphone setup here, because that makes no sense. But anyway, I'm sitting here at a light, and I see the guy in front of me, and he's like trying to make the left turn, and he's out in the middle of the street trying to make the left turn, and he can't. The place he's pulling into has cars completely, completely blocking everything, and yet he's in the middle of the street. And I do see this a million times, and then the light's going to go, green to yellow to red, and this guy's stuck out in the middle of the street, and he can't turn left because there's nowhere to turn into, and he's just stuck out there. And so the guy starts reversing. Now he's in the middle of the street trying to get out of traffic. So he starts reversing back, 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 back. And I'm behind him. And I can't go back. There's a car behind me. So I'm boxed in. I see this guy reverse, 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 reverse. And he's getting closer and closer. And I'm like, so then I honk. That's what you heard on the video. I'm like, honk, like, hey, dumbass. Yeah, I can't stop backing up. There's no place for you to go. And he just backs up, and so he bumps my car. Like I honk, and he keeps going, and I pause the video there, and he actually hits my car. He just backed right into my car. No, he didn't cause any damage. It was like a slow backup, so he just bumps me. And I'm like, so then we all get out and we examine the front of the car. It's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm at this period in life where I do get worked up and angry at times, but it takes it's not that it takes a lot. It's just I do this analysis of like, hey, is my car all scratched and bumped up? If the answer is yes, then I'm going to go off on this guy and just be, crazy angry. And then probably I should keep the video rolling. If I'm doing that, be hilarious for everybody. But there's no damage to my car. It's fine. The guy's a dumbass. So it's like, and so he's looking at me. He's like, oh man, that's my bad. Sorry. I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's your bad. I mean, you know, where do you think you're going? And but I'm like, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. I'm like, hey, just watch what you're doing. And then he gets into his car and eventually makes a left turn, and video resumes. And here we are. So where what was I talking about? I am completely and utterly derailed. Oh, good things in comics. Yeah, good things in comics. I what a crazy. This is a crazy channel. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for listening. Glad you're here. Hope you're getting entertained because what are you going to do? Um, my point in all this was I think there's a ton of good things in comics. There are a lot of stories out there. There's a lot of good things. Hollywood taking interest in comics means a lot of these things are getting produced and cranked into movies and big media, and that's good. That's good for the long term health. It means it's one reason why I'm so certain and so sure that comics are not going to implode anytime soon because there's so many things poking into comics as an industry that for comics to implode, it would take down a lot of other things. You might go, no, no, no. If Marvel disappeared today, the MCU would be fine. It would continue to make money. And I would argue, no, it wouldn't. Comics actually is an important underpinning to the MCU. It's not as disconnected as people think. There's still a kind of cultural momentum off of comics, even if they're not selling well, even if they're a fraction of the movies. If the news headlines tomorrow are, Disney shutters Marvel comics, will focus on movies. That's not a positive for the movies. That whole thing is going to, generate a lot of bad press, a lot of bad feelings, and it creates a atmosphere and a vibe that's not healthy to an industry that needs to look successful. And so it's that's really key right now. And so this stuff's going to continue, and that's good news. Something that's good about comics is that a lot of people are paying attention and are making trying to make more out of all of it. I think I think there's a I'll use the diversity word, but I'll use it the right way. I think there's a diversity in stories where almost, big asterisk there, but almost any story you want to read, you want to see, is available out there for you. Now, the problem is a lot of the creators are all coming from the same kind of ideology, same kind of place. So there is a very high concentration of the same kinds of stories. But there still are there's westerns, there's action, there's horror, there's romance, there's talkie books, there's cape books, there's all kinds of stories out there, and that's a good thing. It's there's some glaring omissions to that list, but there are a lot of stories, and that's a big positive. The other thing I mentioned that is a big positive in comics. It's a good thing right now is that we are seeing, and it's very slow happening effort. We're seeing a pretty aggressive push into finding new ways to distribute, produce, promote, deliver titles. Whether it's what Peter Simeti is doing with Alterna, whether it's what Phil Candelelli is that no, Phil C. I'm going to say Phil C. is doing with digital in terms of finding offline ways to distribute, where you see marketing dollars kind of being produced. A lot of people are out there trying to figure out this problem of how to get comics into a more cost-effective business model, one that's shared, not just the burden is not just on the customer, but the money is shared across different consumers, across marketing, across sponsorships. There's a big push right now to find ways to get comics cheaper and in the hands of more people, and using more methods to do that. That's another major positive. There's a lot of good momentum, and there's a lot of the other thing I'll point out is a lot of bad people or people who cause trouble eat up all the headlines in comics. That's kind of the nature of the beast. But at the same time, there are a lot of good people in comics. There's a lot of people in comics that are really fighting and struggling every single day to make content, get content into people's hands, and are good ambassadors, good people trying to do the right thing. And there's far more good people out there than the bad people, and that's a good thing too. So I think there's a lot to be positive of in comics. We it's better to shine a light and attention on the good things than the bad things. If you're constantly every single day bad, 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 then you miss a lot of good things that are happening and are good things and are happening. The other thing you do is you're sending a kind of a subtle message to the good people that they don't matter, that their efforts and what they're trying to do for comics and how they're trying to help does not matter. That we don't care about them. I think that's a huge negative that that goes on, where there are good people out there doing good things, and if we ignore them, why should they? Why should they continue to do good things? Why not just pack it in and join the crowd shouting? So anyway, what do you think? What are some good things going on? Why do people back up into cars? Are they are they not aware that there are cars in front of them? And why is traffic so bad? I mean, good God, why is traffic so bad? I'm moving to Hawaii. Traffic's bad there too, though. All right, like, subscribe, notify if you want. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Thank you for listening.